An electronic cigarette, or e-cigarette, is a small electronic device that replicates the feeling of smoking. It contains an e-liquid which is usually made up of nicotine, propylene glycol, glycerin and specific flavourings. By heating up this liquid using the e-cigarette device, a vapour is generated in which the user inhales in a process commonly known as vaping. The modern e-cigarette was invented by a Chinese pharmacist called Hon Lik in 2003, who at the time was trying to quit smoking after his father had died of lung cancer. Whilst using high-dose nicotine patches, he thought there must be a more efficient way to deliver nicotine whilst also removing all of the toxic substances such as tar and carbon monoxide that are known to cause cancer and damage your lungs. As a result, the first e-cigarette was invented, which was thought to be a more efficient and safer tool to help you quit smoking. So what do you need to know about the safety of e-cigarettes? Well, let's take this guy for example. He's been an active smoker for most of his adult life and has recently been looking at ways in which he can quit smoking. He is currently considering using e-cigarettes to help with this, but is still unsure about their safety and effects on health. From a quick Google search, he found that major organisations such as the NHS and Cancer Research UK endorse the idea that e-cigarettes are safer for you than traditional cigarettes, with a recent 2018 report commissioned by Public Health England stating that vaping is at least 95% less harmful than smoking. However, he also noticed that in the same report, they state that it should be noted that this does not mean e-cigarettes are safe, and that more research is needed with human users about biomarkers of exposure, risk, harm and health effects over time. The report itself highlights the fact that more research is needed to determine the long-term health effects of e-cigarettes, so that wannabe quitters can be provided with all the necessary information in order to make an informed, sensible decision. So what research is being done? A recent study from 2018, carried out by a group of scientists from the Institute of Inflammation and Ageing at the University of Birmingham, looked at the effects of e-cigarette vapour on white blood cells found in the lungs, known as alveolar macrophages. Macrophages are an important part of our immune system, in that they are needed to remove harmful bugs from our body, such as bacteria. This is extremely important in the lungs, where they swallow up and remove bacteria and other airborne irritants such as dust particles in a process known as phagocytosis. However, if these macrophages are unable to carry out their duty, this could increase the body's vulnerability to infection and inflammation, which is the body's protective response to try and remove the cause of tissue damage and start the process of repair. Eventually, if left untreated, this could lead to other lung disease, such as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. From previous studies that had carried out similar experiments, the researchers realised they had studied the effect of e-cigarette liquid that had not been vaporised. They knew this was not a fair reflection of the potential effects of e-cigarettes, as it is well known that the process of vaping and heating the liquid up actually causes the chemicals in the e-cigarette liquid to change. Therefore, the researchers decided to carry out an experiment to test whether unvaped e-cigarette liquid had a different effect on macrophages in the lungs compared to vaped e-cigarette liquid. So what did they find out? They found that the vaped e-cigarette liquid was significantly more toxic to the macrophages, causing them to basically commit suicide in a process known as apoptosis. Additionally, they found that the vaped e-cigarette liquid caused a large production and release of reactive oxygen species and inflammatory cytokines from the macrophages. These are chemical molecules that in large amounts could cause inflammation to the lungs. And to top it all off, they found that the vaped e-cigarette liquid reduced the ability of the macrophages to swallow up and remove bacteria and other airborne irritants, which could increase the lungs' vulnerability to infection. A very interesting finding from their research was the effect of nicotine on these white blood cells. Nicotine is a highly addictive substance and is the reason behind why so many people find it difficult to quit smoking. Nicotine has been medically approved to be used in nicotine replacement therapies to try and help people quit smoking. However, the results from the e-cigarette research may suggest that nicotine is more harmful than you might think. As well as the previous experiment, they also compared the effects of nicotine-containing e-cigarette liquid to nicotine-free e-cigarette liquid to find out whether nicotine itself had a role in all of this. Interestingly, they found the nicotine-containing e-cigarette liquid increased the number of macrophages that died, as well as increase the production of molecules that increase inflammation. Therefore, these results suggest that as well as being a highly addictive substance, they may also be having a negative effect on the health of the lungs. So what conclusions can we draw from this research? Well, the basic answer is that we still don't know, and probably won't know for around 20 to 30 more years once e-cigarettes have been used for a long stretch of time. This was the first study to show how the vapour from e-cigarettes can affect the white blood cells in your lungs. Clearly, the vapour is toxic to these cells, meaning that vaping over a long period of time could reduce the number of white blood cells in your lungs, possibly leading to the development of some fairly serious respiratory tract infections. Even though more long-term research is still needed, it is fairly clear from the results of this study that maybe e-cigarettes are not as safe as we are being led to believe. Whilst the probability of e-cigarettes being even more harmful than traditional cigarettes is probably close to zero, the opinion that vaping is much safer than cigarette smoking should perhaps be taken with a grain of salt. So let's get back to this guy and what he should perhaps consider doing. The key message is that it would probably be better to just use e-cigarettes in the short term to try and quit smoking, than simply using them in the long term as a replacement nicotine delivery device. It is clear that instead of using them for a short period of time to try and quit smoking, many believe it would be fine to use them for as long as they want as a healthier method to help feed their nicotine addiction. However, based on the results from this research, it is clear that their long-term use could possibly have bad consequences for the health of the lungs. So if you are considering giving up smoking anytime soon, and are considering using e-cigarettes to help with this, maybe consider the fact that whilst they might be beneficial in the short term to help kick your smoking habit, using them for a longer stretch of time might make the situation even worse.